Hello, my name is Mr. Polk and welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm joined by an old friend, sous chef here, Mr. Chicken, and Mr. Chicken and I are going to work together and we're going to show you how to break down a whole chicken. So the purpose of today's lesson is I'm going to show you how you can start from the whole chicken that you buy at the grocery store and then how you can break it down into the classic 8 parts. And that way you can cook them individually and do whatever you want to do. It's definitely a way to save money rather than paying to have all the parts cut. You can process them yourself, and it's also an excellent skill to be able to break down a chicken. So let's get started. Okay, so now we have the chicken that you'd purchase at your grocery store, and I just want to take a minute to show you how to open it, just so that you see how to do it and how to rinse it so that you prepare it. I like to just use a pair of kitchen shears, and that's because if you use the knife, you don't want to cut the skin or anything. And then just go ahead and open it up, and then be careful there's the juice in the bottom because we want to watch getting all the chicken juice and the salmonella everywhere, and then go right into your trash can. And then what you want to do is, because we're going to be turning this into its different parts, if it happens to come in with one of these instant read thermometers, you can remove it. This would be more for if you were going to roast the entire chicken at the, all together in the oven. This would pop when it hits the 165 internal. But we're going to be making all of our pieces separate, so you could get rid of that. Then what you need to do is get rid of what I like to call the goodies. So if you remember from the lesson, these are your offal meats. So what you're going to find in here is in the main cavity, they put whatever goodies you have left, whether it's the piece of the neck or the chicken livers or the gizzards or any of that stuff. And if you're going to save it to make something or a gravy or whatever, fine. If not, you can just toss it and get rid of it. But you want to make sure that you check in the cavity to make sure there's nothing there. And then also up top here, make sure that you're clear as well. Again, it's kind of, you just get usually a handful of parts with these. So you don't necessarily, it's not like they save the livers from this chicken. They just kind of put them in. Sometimes you get the neck piece. Sometimes you don't. Then what you want to do is use your cold water, okay, and you want to give the chicken a really good rinse, okay. So make sure you're washing over it, getting it everywhere, and then let water go inside the cavity so that we clean out any blood or anything that's left on the inside, okay. And then your last step is that you want to make sure the chicken is nice and dry to work with. That's extremely important. So you want to make sure that you take paper towels and you don't want to like rub the chicken, you just want to pat it dry, but you want to make sure that the chicken is nice and dry. That's extremely important to work with it, because if it's wet, it's going to slip when you try to cut it, and then you can just put it into a pan. And again, remember when you're working with the chicken is to be careful of what you're touching, watch what you're touching so you don't get the chicken juice and the salmonella everywhere. So now let's take a look at cutting this up into the 8 parts. Okay, so now we want to look at cutting the chicken in half to start, make a half chicken. So what we're going to do is, I have it sitting here with the breast up and the legs down. You're going to want to flip it so that you can hold it by the tail. And you want to hold it you have your fingers just at the top of the tail. You're going to take your knife and you're going to kind of cut around here, and you're going to cut the backbone out. So you don't want to cut in the center because that's where the backbone is. You got to kind of cut off to the side. And if you remember from the lessons in class where we looked at the diagrams of the bones, that's going to help you. So you pretty much just hold it by the top, and then you just take your knife and you just start to cut down. Okay? And it's a little bit of crunch and munchy, but you just go ahead and cut all the way down till you get to the bottom. And then what's going to happen when you just get that last cut there, a little crunch and munch. And then what you're going to do is you're going to open it up like a book. Okay, so we're going to come over this way, lay them flat like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to cut straight down. Okay? Okay, so once you make that initial cut, now we need to cut the chicken in half through the breastbone. And we do that from the inside. So we lay it open, like I said before, like a book. And we look at the bones, okay? Here we have the back of the breastbone, and we're just going to try to cut right down the center. So we're going to start with pressure right here in our knife and push down. and then we're just going to go ahead and cut. So you're going to put even pressure here, and then just work yourself right down. All right? And then go ahead and slice it, and then you'll see here where you went right through the center of the bone, and it's key to try to do it down the center so that you don't do any damage to one side or the other, because your tenderloin lies right underneath here. If you get too much to one side or the other, you're going to mess the tenderloin. Okay? So now we have a half chicken. So if we flip this guy over, this would be great for on the grill. All right, it's a really nice. I love grilling these half chickens. You get these at events and parties and everything. And then this half is a half chicken, but it still has the vertebrae. We want to get rid of that. Okay, so I like to take my chicken, lay it down like this, and you want to lay it with the bones up so you can see what you're cutting. And you just look here. You have the neck and you have the tail. And it's just a matter of taking your knife and just cutting through and just getting rid of. Sometimes you have to put a little pressure on it, okay, and just cutting the vertebrae. So there you go. And we get to the end here. Sometimes you have to put your hand on the back of the knife and make a cut. Now we've removed the vertebrae of the chicken, and you can see that we did a nice job. We don't really have a lot of the meat. We have just what we want. Now this is something you could either save to make stock. You could freeze it, and when you're ready for it, you could make stock. The vertebrae is great for making stock, or at this point, you could just discard it. Then we'll take a look, and here's where we have our two chicken halves. Okay. So now what we want to do is start to process. Okay. So what we're going to do is there's a natural division here. You can put your hands right in here between the breast, okay, and the leg quarter right here. So we're going to take our knife, chef's knife, and we're just going to go through and cut right through there. And what that's going to do is that separates it, okay. So now you have the breast and wing section, okay, I'm going to set it here. And then we have the thigh and the leg, which would be leg quarters. And you can purchase them like this, the leg quarters. And we'll do the same thing on this guy. It's the same, it's just coming from the other way. Again, you naturally feel that division in the skin. So you're just cutting through the skin and stuff. There's nothing else there. Okay? And we'll set that on. Now, let's try and take a look at our leg quarters. So when you have your leg quarters, what we need to do is separate them between the thigh and the leg. So the best thing that I can tell you is you want to cut right between, as we learned, the bones, right between where the two bones connect. So here's the bone from the thigh, and it connects to the bone from the leg. And what I like to do is put my finger over it, and here's what we're going to do. When you get really good at it, you just cut, but I'm going to just kind of make a little incision here. And by doing that incision, I want you to see what's going on. I want you to see the joint. And it might be tricky in the camera, but you're going to see where the bone ends here. All right, let me make the cut just a little bit bigger so you can see maybe on the camera. Right here. Here you can see, I'll point to it, the joint where this is where, right where my knife is going in, is where the bone from the leg ends, and then the bone from the thigh begins. And it's okay to, like I said, in the beginning, make a little slit so you know where you are. Eventually you'll be able to just kind of tell. And then it's just one nice cut straight down, and that's going to separate them, okay? And that's going to separate your leg from your thigh. And what you want to do is you want to take a look at these, okay? Right now we want to have a really nice chicken leg. We have all this little kind of flap skin going on. So this is where it's kind of like the home dressing. This is where you take your knife and cut some of that skin off. If this little chunk of skin has, a little bit of fat, you can get rid of that. And just pull everything around so you have a really nice leg, okay? Then the same thing with the thigh. Now, the thigh is gonna have a little bit of extra here. So let's kind of look at what we got going on. We've got the thigh bone here, and then we've got the skin, and this is pretty much the chicken thigh. Over here we have the flap of fat and everything and skin. You can trim that off, okay, really nicely. And then if you have a little bit of bones left from when you made your initial cuts, you can clean that up as well. So just get rid of that little guy. And now let's take a look at what we have going on. Now we have the thigh, nice chunk of thigh meat here, and then to make it really look nice, you kind of take it and just sort of tuck it under, and that's going to be a really nice piece of thigh. So just to kind of review, we'll do it again from the other side so you get to sort of see what's going on, because they do look a little bit different. Again, feel for where you think the center of the bone is and make a little cut and open it up. And right away you can see the gap. Okay, and then just hold it, watch your fingers, take your knife, and just cut through. There shouldn't be a lot of resistance because you're cutting between the bones. If there's too much resistance, move your knife around. All right, that means that what you're doing is trying to cut through the bone. All right, and then again, clean it up. If we have a little bit of extra skin, we take that off. And I always like to kind of pull everything down so it looks nice. And then we'll look at the thigh again. And again, if you've got extra skin from the bone, you can take that off. Just kind of make a little cut. And if you got this extra fat flap, you can cut that. And then you're left with the thigh. And if the thigh has a little fat on that side, you can get rid of that too. And then, like I said, I like to roll it under. Okay. Then we want to take a look at the breast and the wings. Okay. So for the breast and the wing, we'll start with this one. And the first thing you want to do is remove the wing. So this is the same as doing it on the whole chicken with the leg. You need to find where the wing actually connects. And a lot of people think it just connects like right here where you see it. But you have to feel, okay, it connects back here. And it's up to you. I usually like to cut it this way with the skin up. And what you're going to do is you can, if you poke your finger in here, you can feel where the connection is. So I'm just going to, for this one here, I just want to take my knife and I just want to make an incision because I want you to see what I'm looking for. Right here, I'll put my knife in between, is where the bone is. That's where you want to make your cut to get rid of the wing. Okay, if you cut back here, you're going to be cutting through the bone. Okay, so we just go ahead and carefully make our slice. And that's going to take the wing off. Okay. So now we have just the breast, and we've removed the wing portion. And if you remember from the lessons, the wings have segments. So it starts with the drumette, and then it connects to what a lot of people call the flat, and then the wing tip. Okay. So the wing tip you can cut off, okay, because we don't need the wing tip. Nobody eats those. And then we just need to cut these. And again, it's the same thing. You just want to sort of feel where it is. And on this, because it's on the camera, let me make a little incision so you can sort of see where we are. And you can feel that this is the end of the bone here. So I'm just going to take my knife and I'm going to go ahead and make my cut. Okay. And there you have the section of the drumette here. Then you have the what people call the flat, or sometimes like the wingette. And if you have some extra little skin or whatever, you can cut that off. And there you have your wings. Okay. Okay. So now that we have the breast separated, it doesn't have the wing segments on. We want to take a look at, a lot of times when you buy these, you buy these as a boneless, skinless chicken breast. So you want to remove the skin. That's the easy part You just kind of get your hands underneath it and pull it apart, and it'll just pretty much come right off of the chicken like that. If it gives you a hard time, you can use a knife, but for the most part, you'll be able to just pull it. Then take your chicken breast and flip it over. And what you're going to do is we want to start by cutting pretty much these bones off right here. This would be the remnant of the breastbone, and then you want to kind of get these little ribs and things off. So the easiest thing to do is, it just depends on how you want to hold it, is you can either use a boning knife, or you can use a paring knife. And you just want to keep your hands behind where you're cutting. And what I like to do is I like to start this way and just make these real tiny thin cuts, okay? And then even what I want to do is I want to show you that I can even pull some of this away. And what I'm trying to do is cut right behind the bone with not getting too much of the chicken, okay? So I'm going to switch it now that I have something to hold on to. And you're going to see that it's just these tiny little cuts, all right, just so that we can free the actual meat of the chicken away from the bone. Okay, you just want to do it very carefully. When you get up here, we'll make one more little cut. And then when you get here, I want to show you, this is where sometimes you get pieces of the wishbone, whatever that you need to take out. So what we do is we just keep cutting. Just keep taking our knife, and again, I'm not cutting through the bone. I'm just trying to remove the chicken. And then when I get up to the end here, I can see that there is the other half of the wishbone. So I can just take my knife and cut the wishbone out, and you can see that the remnants of it in there. And that did a really nice job. We were able to take our chicken, and we have the really nice front surface here. You can clean it up a little bit if you want to get rid of some of that on the bottom. If you have any fat here, you can very carefully trim that off and just make it look really nice. But this was the bone that we wanted to take off. All right, so we can get rid of that. And then the last thing you're going to notice is that if you cut your chicken in half very nicely, all right, you're going to have the breast, and then when you flip it over, right here is going to be your tenderloin. And your tenderloins, you can just pull them away carefully and just take your knife and just slice those right down, and that's where you have your tenderloin and you have your chicken breast. Okay, and you can clean that up a little bit. If you want to cut through that, turn that over. And a lot of times too, you'll see sometimes people will say the breast with the rib meat, and that's where a lot of times this little section is sometimes taken off. But we'll let that section on to give us a little bit more meat, and we'll lay it here. And now let's take a look at what we did so far. Okay, so now we take one last look at what we have here. We have the boneless, skinless chicken breasts. They look really nice. They're full. They have all the bones removed. And then we did a nice job in cutting it down the center. So we have the two tenderloins from each side. We then cut off the wings, and we have the wing segments. And then we have our thighs, okay? And then we also have our legs. So there you can see how you started with the whole chicken. We were able to cut it down, and now it looks just like the parts that you would purchase at the grocery store, except you're not paying the cost for somebody to do it for you, and you get the bonus of having the bones so that you can make stock. So thank you for cooking with me today, and I can't wait to cook with you real soon right here in Mr. Polk's kitchen.